Hey everybody, Aaron Blaise here, and welcome to another episode of Aaron's Art Tips, number 17. Hey everybody. Well, first of all, I just want to say it's really good to be back. I've been away for a little while. I just got back from a 10-day trip in Europe. I went to Denmark and Switzerland. In Denmark, I flew out to visit the animation workshop in Viborg, Denmark, up in the central part of the country, where I gave the keynote speech to the graduating class there of animation, and I was able to do a workshop. I got to do a little lecture on my career, made some great friends. I want to say hello and thank you to Klaus and Elena for taking care of me. I had a really great time. I've made some more friends. And then from there I went to Switzerland, where I pitched Art Story, the film that we're currently making, to a very interested group of people that possibly, some of them might want to help us make the film. It was a beautiful gallery right in downtown Zurich. It was a great experience, and I think some good things are going to come out of it. I want to give my usual shout out to Wacom and all of their great products. Please go to their website. It's wacom.com and check out the products. I use several of them, and I can't get by without them. Also, if you want to see more of my tutorials and more of my art tips, that sort of thing, please visit my website. It's creatureartteacher.com. That's the art of Aaron Blaise, and it's creatureartteacher.com. So today, what are we going to talk about today? Well, I've had a lot of people ask me, what kind of supplies do you use when you go out and paint on location? I love to go to nature centers, or if I go on my trips to Alaska or Africa, there's a certain number of things that I take with me that I can't get by without, and I try to stay very mobile. And so over the years of doing this, I've put together kind of my go-to bag, and I thought I'd kind of go over them with you. First thing is I've got this backpack that I take with me everywhere. It's an artist backpack, and it says Artist Studio, and it's made by Create. And the thing that separates it from other backpacks is that, like that Velcro, is that it has a lot of little pockets for your paintbrushes, pens, that sort of thing. There's plenty of space inside for all of your different supplies that you want to bring with you. Now, when it comes to my paper and that sort of thing, there's several different things I use. Sometimes I like to bring a sketchbook. Any sketchbook will do. Right now I'm using this one that I like the kind of the landscape quality, this long horizontal, and so I can just sit and do my little watercolors and pen drawings, and the paper itself is very versatile. You can use all kinds of wet media and that sort of thing. Now, if I want to do something that's a little bit more, where the paper can hold up a little bit better, I use a lot of different watercolor blocks. Now, watercolor blocks, I'm going to actually pull a couple of these out of here. Watercolor blocks are, and you can see I've got all different kinds of, all different sizes that I use. And what makes them a block is, if you look, I'm going to open this up. If you look, they're sealed all the way around the edges. And so what that does is, when you do wet media, the paper will tend to buckle. And a lot of people will bring a board with them and tape, and have to tape down the paper and all that kind of thing. Well, this enables you to not have to go through all that. So it's much more compact, and I can paint on it, and the paper will not buckle up. So that's a big advantage. And then when you want to take your drawing off or your painting off, there's a little window right here that's not sealed, and you can just put a little razor blade in there and go around the edges and cut it out, and then you take it off, and there's a new clean sheet of paper underneath. So it's very cool. The next thing, as far as what do I use to actually draw and paint with, I have no big secret as far as drawing utensils go. One of the best tools I have for drawing are Bic pens. I can buy a pack of 20 of these for like $2. They're really, really great. They're waterproof and they last forever. And if you lose them, it's okay. You've got 19 more to dig into. I'll sometimes use some other felt pens. I've experimented with other ones to get maybe some thicker lines that are also waterproof. And that's just a matter of experimenting and see what you like, see what you don't like. But the Bic pens, I really recommend. They're great. They work on all different surfaces. And like I said, they're waterproof. So you can do your drawing first, then you can paint over the top of them. I use several different brushes, and I'm going to get to those in a minute. The next thing I use is this. This thing is awesome. It's going to change your life if you're going to go out and do any painting on location. First of all, like I said, sometimes I like to go out and do plein air painting with oil paints, but that's a whole other excursion where I got to bring other supplies. This is when I want to stay really mobile. So I use watercolors. I use Winsor Newton because the quality is just that much better, and the power and the color intensity is really strong. But this little tool right here, it's made by Winsor Newton, and it's called I think it's just called a Cotman palette. I'm not quite sure, but I started using these about 25 years ago, and they didn't really catch on, and they went away. And I had mine for 25 years, and it finally fell apart. And then all of a sudden, they started making them again. And so I just went out probably about 6 months ago, and I bought this new one. Now watch this. It fits. It can fit in your pocket. It can fit anywhere. But it's a self-contained paint, palette, water, everything. So you pull the top off, like so. And it opens up. All right? And now you've got your palette. And it's nice little, and you got all these beautiful cake watercolors. And you can mix and match. You can pick out all the whatever colors you like to use. And then it's got a tiny little, which I love, it's got this tiny little paintbrush that comes undone, and you put it together, and it's very small, but it's a sable brush, comes to a really great point. And I use this for a lot of little detailed work, but I also supplement it with several other brushes. I'll bring much bigger brushes to get bigger washes, and so I keep those inside my my backpack to use on the side. Now, so you've got this little brush. You've also got, as part of the palette, you've got this little container. Now I'll pull the cap off here. You can see it fills with water, and you can use this as your little water reservoir because, watch this. You got the palette out. It's got a little ring here for your thumb, and you take the cap that I just pulled off, and it's got a little like dovetail on it right here, and it clips on. Pour your water in, stick it back inside here, and now I'm going to just pull out one of these brushes. If I want to sit and paint after I've done my drawing, I've got my water right here, I mix all my paint, and I'm sitting and I'm painting. I'm doing paintings. I've used this thing in Africa. I've used it in India. I've used it in Alaska. They're versatile. They're so portable. I absolutely love them, and I really recommend it. So it's this. It's made by, I think they're made by Cotman, which is Winsor Newton. And just go online and check them out. They're really great. So and it just folds back up like so. Take my brush, take the brush, put it back together, and it sits right in a little clip right here, like that. Take that off, fold it back up, and boom, you're back to sticking it right back in your pocket, and you're off again. And so some of the other cool things that I have in my little bag of tricks. First of all, I'm going to jump back and talk to you about some of my paintbrushes. So you saw inside here, there's the tiny little sable brush that I use, and I said that I use some of these other ones to round out the size brushes that I have. Well, I have some larger ones in here, some really big ones, in case I decide that I want to paint on a larger block. So I've got these, and I use these, I use my smaller brushes for blocks about this size. When I get into some of the larger pieces, like so, I want to do bigger washes with the paintbrush. So I like to use these big flats to lay down some nice washes for the watercolor, especially when I'm doing skies and that sort of thing. And if I want to lay in a big area, I like to have something that's going to hold a lot of liquid, a lot of the watercolor. And so as a result, you can see I can go out and I can do some really cool landscapes, and just by using these little small amount of supplies and that sort of thing. I'm going to put that down there. Now, I like to vary that up sometimes. Vary up what I bring out. First of all, I always bring out a big thing of water, because you can never have too much water when you're doing watercolor. You want to wash everything. Paper towels, you got to have paper towels. You're going to make a mess. You got to clean your palette, all that kind of stuff. Sometimes, the mixing space that you have on here, sometimes it's not quite enough, especially if I'm doing a larger painting, so I'll bring an extra palette with me, and I can, I have a much bigger area that I can mix paint in. And this comes in very, very handy. And then, just in case, if I'm doing larger pieces, these little cakes, sometimes, especially for these bigger blocks, they're not quite enough paint. I can't get enough pigment on my brush. And so what I'll do is I'll go more traditional. I keep them in a little Ziploc, and I've got all my tube watercolors right here. And I just wrap them up, and they're always there if I need them, and there's always plenty of paint, so I can get some great stuff done. The other thing too is, if I want to go bigger paintings, I want a bigger container of water. So I bring this along with me, and I just pour my water in, and we're all set to go. This is a great little container, but you can use, baby food jars, you can use whatever. And then the other thing, sometimes I like to, when I sit down and paint, as a matter of fact, you'll see on here, I'm going to pull this back up. I like to have, nice clean borders. It's just a personal taste of mine. Some people like to paint to the edge, but I like to have nice clean borders. For me, it just looks neater. And so to do that, I always bring with me a nice roll of artist tape and tape down around the edges to create those nice borders. Then there's other times where, I just want to go out, I just want to do a quick drawing. I just want to maybe bring this and maybe something small, and I don't need my big backpack. And I've got this great little container that I bring with me. I can just sling over my shoulder. And once again, it's got a place to keep my Cotman watercolor set in here, little place for some brushes, and it's just a very nice, small, little portable little pack that I can bring with me. And that's pretty much it. I try to keep it very simple, and it's really just about getting out and spending as little time as possible lugging stuff. You want to be really portable. So Bic pens, that's a big one, and getting these watercolor blocks. Forgot one thing I want to talk to you about. On the watercolor blocks, I'm going to move this palette out of the way. On the watercolor blocks, with watercolor paper, if you're familiar with watercolor paper, it comes in two surfaces. There's hot press and cold press. Now, cold press is traditionally more toothy. It's got more texture to the paper, and the watercolor it'll look more like a traditional watercolor paper. It bleeds. The watercolor itself is a lot more controllable. But when it comes to drawing on that surface, sometimes it's harder to get a nice line. It gets a little scratchy looking sometimes. So sometimes I like to go with a smooth surface, which is the hot press. So, and you can see they're color coded. The green is cold press. This orange color is hot press. And what hot press is very, very smooth. And what's great about that, and here's some sketches that I just did recently. It takes the pen really, really well. It's more like drawing on smooth paper, but at the same time, when you go to paint, it takes the paint really well too. It doesn't quite bleed the same way that the cold press does, but it's a good compromise because you get some really nice line work. These are some sketches that I recently did at a wildlife center just south of here, and I just brought this little pack with me and grabbed a little chair and sat down and did some drawings. So anyway, that's my little bit of advice, my little Aaron's art tip for this week. When you're putting together your supplies to go out and draw from life, keep it simple. And you don't need big special equipment. Bic pens, these simple watercolor blocks, some paper towels. Get some Winsor Newton paints because they're really good quality. Don't go cheap on that because you want that paint to last. And then last of all, like I said, I really recommend this palette. It's Winsor Newton, it's Cotman, which is made by Winsor Newton. And we're going to try to provide a link for you. And check them out. I think they run about 50 bucks. I could be wrong, but they it's the best 50 bucks you'll spend as far as, you know, having these portable little paints to take with you. So go out, do some painting, create something beautiful, and I'll talk to you next week. Thanks a lot. Bye.